Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Grind here on this Tuesday morning. It's still relatively cold in our neck of the woods, but hopefully where you're at, you're warming up. I know I live in an ice box over here, so it is freezing. And yes, I have no sleeves on my shirt. It sucks, but it is what it is. But, man, I was, compared to how I was yesterday when I came on this show, defeated, lost. My favorite football team had just lost in the playoffs and gotten
Oh, I see where
embarrassed.
this is going.
And no. Look. Yes, your team did not do its job yesterday. Fair enough. But here's my dilemma. I had gone into the game picking the Bucks originally, and then with about 30 minutes before the football game started, I switched my pick to the Eagles because I kept thinking there's no way we're going to have this many upsets in one weekend. Boy, was I wrong, because the Bucks came out throwing the ball over the place. You and I talked before we got on the show. There is something wrong in Philly.
Yeah, there's
And
something there's a disconnect between the team and the coaches and the management. Like there's something the players just look defeated. Like they just looked like they don't care. They weren't even trying. And it's not so much for me like, oh, we don't get to go to the Super Bowl. Like, yeah, that sucks. But you know what the kicker was for me? Is if you saw Jason Kelsey after how upset he looked.
he's
Because
tired.
he's getting close to his last games. It's either he was kind of
This is
talking
it.
about this being his last season, and so that's not the way that he wanted to go out. And he was still trying, but a lot of the other players just weren't trying. Like there was just something going on. There was a disconnect there, and it's ever since the Niner game. It was like we
Mm-hmm.
did the hard half of our schedule and we were doing great. Like we had some really close games, but we were figuring out ways to win. And then we got to like the easier half of the schedule, like after the Niner game, where we lost the Niner game, but the Niners have been playing really well, as much as I can't stand them.
Right. Same here.
Um, I'm from California, so we call them the 40 whiners because all they do is bitch. But other than that, it's like it just felt like there's just something after that game where the team just became very disconnected from each other, and it just didn't feel like the same team. And they did, and then I don't know what we got a new offensive coordinator, and just the play calling was just has been all over the place. And it's just, I don't know, there's just something going on behind the locker room because we have way too much talent. Like we have some great players on that team, and too many good players to be playing that bad.
Mm-hmm. You got to say a lot about Baker Mayfield, though, for him to come into a situation where he is now the heir apparent to what Brady was doing for that team. And for him to do what he did in that game, 3 touchdown passes, over 300 yards passing, he hasn't had this good of a game since college. And he has tried in the NFL for a long time with the Browns, which good luck with all that. Just trying to find, with Carolina last year, good luck with all that. He has really tried to find his way in this league. And you know what? He did a really decent job yesterday. And having the home field advantage does help. Now, I do think the Eagles have the same coaching issue the Cowboys got in the way that their head coach may be on the bubble right now, because that was a total team meltdown. Not just that game, but going into the game, because beforehand they lost 2 in a row. And like
What
you said,
awful
Cincinnati.
teams.
Yeah. And before that, since they lost to the Niners and the Cowboys, and at the end of the year, it just kind of it been a very slow, steady decline.
Yeah.
And that's where I look at it from a pro football sense. Has the coach lost the locker room? Has the team stopped caring? Like, I don't think they'd care. I don't think they stopped with McCarthy at the Cowboys. I just think the Cowboys ran into a roadblock they couldn't get out of. And I mean, once again, you deal with the Green Bay Packers having the kind of poise they had in that game. If I was the Niners, I'd be worried. I'd be a little bit worried right now, because you've had some time off. Your last game was a loss, even though you didn't play anybody. I would kind of look at it and go, we better buckle up for this damn Packer team, because this Packer team might bring it this game. At the same time, the Bucks are kind of scary. No one's looking at them right now. And that's a dangerous thing, because if they sneak behind you and hit you with a chair shot, as in my world, that's gonna be lights out like it was for Philly last night. So you know, hey, look, hats off to the Eagles having a great season until the end. I mean, it is what it is. Cowboys have the same issue. Hopefully next year both teams figure it all out. We can have that nice rivalry between Dallas and the Eagles like we had this past year, and it can be a lot of fun. Again, it's the NFL, which stands for not for long in this league because that's just how it is. But
I'm hoping, you know, I don't have high hope. The only reason I don't have high hopes is because I have a strong feeling there's going to be a big rebuild in our coaching section, because I think it was a big breakdown between the players and the coaches, the play calling. It was just, and even from the start of the season, just the play calling was off. We weren't using our receivers. We weren't playing to Jalen's strengths in the way. And me and you have talked about this before, how you wish they had used Dak Prescott's strengths in the beginning when he was still in his younger prime. And they did that last year with Jalen, which is why we got to the Super Bowl. And then this year they didn't. But we had a different coordinator. And I think there was a lot, like I said, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And I have a feeling there's going to be a lot. I don't see Sirianni losing his job, because at the end of the day, he has gotten us to the playoffs the last couple of years. So he's doing all right. But I do see most of our coordinators and like offensive, defensive, like there's going to be a big change in that area for sure, I think. Um I can give Howie Roseman some credit, though. He is pretty good at picking people usually. This was just an off year for him, I think, as far as coaches.
well, the thing is that if the coaching landscape was a little different right now, and there weren't some of the biggest names out there that could be had, I would say you're probably right. They're probably not going to look at the head football coach of a change. But when you have Belichick out there, and when you have Jim Harbaugh out there, you have, even Pete Carroll's out there. I mean, there's several names that are out there. Yeah, they're a little bit older, they're a lot wiser, but then again, they had a lot of key moment. They had a lot of key players in that, in their system that helped them win. You think Pete Carroll could not win with Jalen Hurts?
Wouldn't that be a full circle moment, though, if we got Belichick and we won another Super Bowl with the coach that we beat in the Super Bowl? That would be a nice full circle moment, I think.
It would be, but then again, I look at it this way: Atlanta's saying the same thing. Atlanta is looking for a coach too, and wouldn't it be great for them if they got Belichick, knowing that the coach that came back and beat them in the Super Bowl is now their coach?
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot that can go on. My biggest concern is who are the Commanders going to get?
No
Because
one
you
cares.
know I don't know one care. I'm a Cowboy Redskin, fanatic. I mean, I love the rivalry for what that was back in the day, and I know it's not quite the same as it used to be, but I'm always
Now,
worried about what they're going to do. So,
the Cowboy Redskin rivalry back in the day was similar to the way it was Philly and Giants.
right.
And then those two faded, and then it became the Cowboys and Philly. That rivalry
Well,
is intense.
well, I mean, Jimmy Johnson and Buddy Ryan made that what it was, and it got big, got hotter and hotter and hotter as the years went by, and as both teams started to go on the rise with each other, and everybody else was kind of not so great. Even when the Giants were doing good, people
Eli
didn't talk
Manning.
about the Giant. Yeah, well, the hell with him, but
Well,
not
he
a
brought
fan.
him to a Super Bowl.
A couple of them, yeah, and won a couple of them too. But yeah, I mean, again, look, it is what it is. It's the NFL, and this is the time of year. I mean, even though I don't have a dog in the hunt now, now I look at who I'd want to see go to the Super Bowl.
I always
Do
vote
I
for the people that like haven't had one yet. Is there anyone in
would
there who hasn't had
uh,
one?
Detroit right now? Yeah,
Detroit.
Detroit's the only team.
Then I
They
guess
had the
that's who I'm
Browns.
going for.
I mean, you had the Browns, but then they got eliminated by the Texans. The Texans haven't been yet. So
I
if
like
you
the
want to come,
underdogs. Like I like the
yeah.
people. I get sick of seeing, like the Patriots where it was like over and over and over again. It's nice when you see a little bit of, fresh meat in there. Someone who hasn't gotten to win one yet.
Well, if you want to see the Lions and the Texans, I'm sure the NFL would hate you for that because they want a game that's going to draw, and to them that's just a typical Sunday game. But that'd be a game where not either one of those teams have been to the Super Bowl, so that would be even as the Houston Oilers never went. Now the Titans went, but they were already the Titans by then. So that's kind of the NFL as is right now. It's going to be interesting this next week, though. Who's going to go, who's going to get past the next round. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that, and of course,
I'm
as we
looking
get
forward to
closer,
see if the conspiracy theory is true.
which one's that?
The colors on the thing. So if it ends
Oh
up
yeah,
being
yeah,
like
yeah.
Niners and Ravens,
That's true. That's
then
true.
I'm gonna start. I might start believing the hype.
That the NFL's fixed. Hey, it's out there, right? It's always out there. I mean, let's face it. We see some of those calls that were non calls in the games. Pass interference when they should have called it, but they didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
that's on every game nowadays. And I thought they had made a deal to where pass interference was deemed replay worthy after the Saints dropped the playoff game to I can't remember who it was, but the team that won out the Super Bowl, and it was a blatant pass interference that was never called. I thought they actually overturned that rule and said, okay, well, we can now review instant replay. I haven't seen it once.
Yeah, I don't know. They be changing the rules all the time, and then half the time they don't do it. And I be getting mad at the coaches all the time too for not challenging some of those calls. But and then they have all these rules with the challenge flag now. Like you're only allowed to challenge certain calls. But even
Yeah.
the little calls can really make a difference, like pushing you back lots of yards and stuff. Like I don't know.
Well, the bad thing is you can't challenge a non-call. You cannot challenge. Hey, he held Michael Parsons. Before you can get to the quarterback. Well, they can't review that if they never threw a penalty on it. So that's kind of. I mean, it's clearly not a perfect system. I remember back in the day when there was a listen replay at all. It was pretty much just what the referees say they saw. So when you put your faith in that, there you go.
No, I
But the
wouldn't.
game was a
I'd
lot
have
faster
about
then
as
too,
much faith in that as gas station sushi.
right?
Yep.
By the way, yesterday your little show here made its
Ooh.
episode 2 debut,
Well, today.
and well, yeah, I see. Before I went to bed, I put it on. I put it on in my car before I was heading home, so I got to listen to a little bit of it. It sounded pretty good. A lot of information, folks. A lot of those. If you're driving in the car and you're listening to this, it will overwhelm you. You almost have to kind of sit and actually watch or talk about it. And
Well,
I was
I
like,
would on this episode. I definitely would suggest watching the YouTube version or the Spotify version where there's the video, because I do put up like on the screen some of the studies that I'm talking about. Like there's screenshots of it on the screen
right.
um,
And
for
when
people
and
to
when you're
see.
driving in the car, you're hearing about this stuff, but you're like, huh? So it's
Were
hard
you
to listen to when you're
surprised by
driving,
anything
but
you heard though?
I was surprised how much research you did, and you already warned me about how much research you had done on it. But man, you went. I mean, once again, you covered your ass on all bases, which is you got to have to do with these kind of things nowadays because you can't leave anything out. And unfortunately, there's going to be someone who's going to hear this and they're going to go, "Well, they left this part out." Well, whatever. Just look. This is someone who does a lot of research, who does a lot of covers the subject at hand as it is. Even kind of goes on about more stuff about it, but then comes back to the middle of it because just to show the middle ground. But does a really good job of really covering the basis. So I do recommend it. Go check out the Middle Grounds on Spotify and on YouTube as well. The Middle Ground with Presley Christine. You gotta have the entire name on there because if you don't,
I
then
know it's
it'll piss Christy. It'll piss Brown Presley off. We don't want that. She'll come in here,
no. I would have
fits
just
of
called it the
anger.
middle ground, but there was other middle ground, so it's like you gotta.
She
It's
called it
just
the
like
real
there's
middle ground.
the real middle ground. No, it was just like it was one of those ones where I had watched that Matt Walsh documentary, and it got me thinking. And so then I did, then you go down that rabbit hole when you start looking into it yourself. And then just as a parent, like I wonder if one of my sons ever came to me with this issue, what would I do? And then you hear about the kind of like emotional manipulation that some of these doctors do, like, would you rather have a dead son or an alive daughter? Because there's such a high, you know, unaliving rate with that. And it's it makes you kind of go down a rabbit hole on that. But I tried to
It
stay
does.
I tried to stay as objective as I could, but on that one, and I preface the episode by saying like this is probably one of the more conservative stances I have because it's pretty black and white that like you're not actually helping your child.
Right. It's funny because when the movie The Iron Claw came out, all the fact finders, all the people who have known about the Von Erich family since their days in Dallas, got on their high horse and said this movie's inaccurate. They left out their brother. They did this, they did that. And when I've seen the movie twice, and I was like, you know what? This movie is not for people in Texas or Dallas or people who actually grew up with the Von Erichs. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice little swan song to them, but it's for those out in other states who are not really familiar with the story. So this will give a chance to watch the movie, go on YouTube, do all the research they want to do on the family, and see they left out certain things. But then they might actually understand. Look, the movie's only 2 hours. You cannot put all that tragedy in one 2 hour movie because there's a lot.
Yeah.
So, so I totally understand. That that whole basis of look, there's a lot of documentaries are a lot of fun to do the rabbit hole searching. Like I
Yeah.
just saw me and my son, like I talked yesterday, we totally saw Forrest Gump. And I went on the rabbit hole seeing the making of Forrest Gump because I like seeing that kind of stuff. And to watch Tom Hanks do a screen test with Robin Wright with his real voice is an entirely different movie. It's not Forrest Gump because you got to have the voice to be able to be Forrest Gump. I mean, you got
Yeah.
to have that and say Janae and that kind of stuff. But you can't, but like, it's just fun. Like Making of a Murder on Netflix, the Stephen Avery story. I'm sure we're all familiar with that, right?
Oh, I have some stuff to tell you about that one.
Oh, I would love to hear it because I love the documentary. Now, the documentary's got a lot of half truths because it
Oh,
didn't paint the entire picture.
oh, it left a lot of
But
shit out. Not just
when you
half
go to
truth. It left a lot
uh,
out.
right, right. But I mean, there's a lot of left
They
out, but it made you, but it engaged you enough to sit there and watch the entire series almost in like 1 or 2 days. Right, you get it all through
oh,
it,
for sure. I
and
like
it's
binged.
it's yeah, and
But you
it
know,
was
I
binge.
that documentary upset me actually because when I actually I want to give you I'll give you my Daily Wire login so I can show you they did a piece on that where they did like a counter documentary to it where they like actually looked into what the documentary stated and got down to the facts and down to the nitty-gritty. And there's so much stuff they left out. Stuff about his past, him fiddling his nieces. Like, I mean, this documentary did a really good
This was
job.
not a good guy. This
No,
was
not
not
at
a
all.
good guy at all.
The documentary paints him as some like small town boy with a low IQ that's just getting screwed over by the system. And that is not what it is at all.
No,
And I was actually really, once I got more like in depth with it, I was actually really upset at that documentary because of how many people. I mean, there's people still today that will protest outside of his jail wanting him to be free. And I'm like, you guys need to do some research because there's a lot of stuff that got left out of that documentary. They definitely
you know,
painted one side of that picture.
I remember when the Tiger King came available on Netflix, right?
Oh Lord,
And
what a show!
yeah, and well, right. Well, here's the thing. I know him. I know
Joe
him
Exotic.
because I replaced him as a color commentary text on Pro Wrestling because he was good friends with the promoter that I worked for at the time,
Mhm.
and because the promoter's an animal lover too. He's got like a pet monkey and does all those exotic animal type things as well. So, I had met Joe. I had met Joe beforehand because I remember doing a Hall of Fame thing in the middle of the ring one time with the offshoots thing, and I'm looking down at Joe. This is when Joe was still there, and I'm like, "We're live on Joe Exotic TV, everybody." And I look over at Joe, and I'm like, "Look at you, blonde hair, bright pink shirt. How the Tiger's not eating you yet?" just to be funny with him, and he couldn't hear what I was saying, but I don't care. So fast forward about almost a year later, I'm at the show just as a spectator, and Joe's people are there to set up the broadcast, but there's no Joe because Joe's on the lam, and his partner Sarge was there, and the other promoter Terry Hopper, who God rest her soul, she's looking over at Sarge. She's like, "Are we ready for the conference?" He's like, "Well, Joe's not here." She took one look over at me and went, "Trey, you can talk. Get in there. You're a podcaster. Get in there." And I became the color commentator for that particular program, and then that went off for about 3 years from there. So, I mean, my tie to him was that, but then to watch the documentary and to see how crazy this motherfucker was, and pardon my language, but I mean, to watch how nuts this guy was, I'm like,
Insane.
wow. I mean, this is a whole different level of crazy that I've
You,
never been
you
familiar with.
want you want an even better level of crazy is he has a cell phone somehow in jail, and he has an Instagram. Follow him on the because we got the Daily Grind page now. It's follow him on there. I dare you. He
Oh,
posts. He still posts stuff about Carol Baskin.
of
He
course.
tags all the presidents like every day trying to get a pardon. Still
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about Carol's dead husband or whatever. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Carol's crazy
But,
too, and she's a hypocrite because she was literally doing the same thing he's doing, but like made it sound better. She made it sound more humanitarian, even though it was pretty much the same stuff. Just she did it in a nicer package, whereas his was very like
yes. There's
ghetto
nothing
and.
more There's nothing more humanitarian than feeding your husband to a tiger. There you go. That 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 that
Well,
that would be
she had
Joe's
her she
deal.
had her whole tiger set, sanctuary, and it was all volunteers that came every day to do everything. She had a full thing that she was making money off of and didn't pay one worker because they're all volunteers. I mean, Joe at least pays his people.
And
Shit.
yeah, right. It's a crazy world to get involved in. That's for sure. That's a
I didn't realize
crazy,
how
crazy
close
world.
that was too. Like when I was watching it, and they were like, "Oh, it's right there, over there in Oklahoma," and I was like, "It's like right
Oh,
there."
I mean, we the one guy that's in there, the one that was giving Joe a lot of fits. I can't think of his name now. He come into my place to our your former place of employment, the place where I currently work at, and he'd be in there all the time. He'd been on bands left and right over there constantly. They were going to build. Joe was going to build another zoo sanctuary across where Windstar's at on the other part where now there's a dispensary and everything else over there.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty crazy over there now. But I mean, I cannot imagine what that would have been like if they had moved this stuff a lot closer. Because those are some
Lord.
different types of people that work for Joe. Those people are a special kind of
Man,
special. That is
and
for sure.
they're dedicated. I'll give them that. Like the one chick who
Yeah,
had her arm ripped off and she was still working for him. She was
yeah.
so not.
Like
I've never met someone so nonchalant about having their arm ripped off by a tiger. Like she was
it's
just like,
just a
man.
flesh wound. I mean, it's literally a Monty Python thing. Just a flesh wound. We're fine.
Like it's good, no big deal. Well, and
So
then
anyway,
I think the craziest part of that documentary was towards the or show documentary, whatever you want to call it, was towards the end when the one guy that works for him was talking about, and they have it on video where he's just chit chat a Latin with one of Joe's many fiancés or whatever they are, husbands.
okay.
And this kid just like unalives himself right there, like chit chatting with the guy, and you can see the dude's face, like, and he's just staring for a good 5 minutes, like didn't know what to do. That's got to be traumatic for
Yeah,
someone to do that right in front of you.
yeah, pretty much. But then that tells you what 2020 was like for us. We had Making of a Murder on the Tiger King. So there you go.
I mean,
That was our binge watching of the weeks back then.
it kept us busy.
Oh my god.
But no, I was so
Yeah,
mad about me. I'm gonna give you my login so you can watch that, and you're gonna be so
I'm
upset by
interested.
the.
Yeah.
You're gonna be really upset by the end. What I like was legit mad by the end of watching it. I was like, I feel lied to. Like, I feel so upset. And then I went online to like verify because Candace Owens is the one who narrates it, and I'm not the world's biggest Candace Owens fan because she's a little out there for my taste. She's like a She's like a female Wiley, you know. Uh,
Aw.
and she, just small doses, but she narrates it, and so I after I did like some googling after to kind of verify what she was saying, and all of it's true. And by the end of the documentary, I was like, I'm mad. I am upset. I think he did it now. He did it. Like, what a douche.
I have no doubt he did it because there's no other evidence. I'm sorry, there's no other evidence saying that he didn't do it. I mean, it to me, it's almost like Lee Harvey Oswald killing JFK, right? There's a conspiracy that if you go out there, you'll find people who are going to sit there and tell you their
The
point of view
grassy
and this and
knoll.
that. Yeah, but I'm like, okay, it's been over 60 years, and there ain't no one else come forward with this entire thing. Trust me, he did it. He got lucky, and 3 shots, boom, boom, president went down, and it is what it is. He got caught. Hey, look, I mean, I'm so fascinated with the whole JFK thing. I took my son to go see the school book depository. He loved every
Oh
bit of
yeah.
it. But clearly, I mean, the only thing that bothers the public about it is that why is it that simple of a case? It's got to be a lot more because of who the president was. No, it doesn't. It could be as simple as it was. It was that easy back in the day, 1963. That's how easy it was for Lee Harvey Oswald to do what he did.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think for people nowadays, it's like, why was the president in a car, like in a convertible? Like, why was he? Like, we look back, like that was stupid. But like you said, it's the '60s. They weren't thinking about people wanting to not have
Well,
a president
I
back
mean,
then.
back then parades were a big thing. I mean, like when if you
Other
watch
than
the
like
movie,
you got what's his face, knocking off Abe Lincoln in the theater, but
right? I mean, it's like there's a movie out that came out in the '80s called The Right Stuff about the first 7 astronauts, and like every time an astronaut would go off into space, they come back to be a ticker tank bomb. A big parade for them. They have the open vehicle. They're out there waving at everybody, this and that. That was a thing back in the day. You don't do that nowadays unless you're a sports team that actually won the Super Bowl. I mean, that doesn't really happen very often. So,
you
you
can't
know,
trust it.
no, you can't because there's always that one person or that one group or that whoever. So, I mean, you get some. If the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, you get some pissed off Eagles fans. You're gonna we're gonna show them they're gonna go to the Super Bowl next year because they're gonna be alive. I mean, you got those kind of people that are out there. It's a sick world. So you gotta not saying it's all Eagles fans are like that. I'm just saying throwing them out there just to make you uneasy. So
We are an extremely intense fan group. We are one of the most obnoxious for sure, and I wear that with pride. I know what kind of fans we are.
it's our
We throw
it's our
snowballs
sick.
at Santa,
Yeah.
but we'll never live that down. But
Oh,
yeah, we are dedicated fans. At least we're not flip floppers. That's
that's
the one
true. I
thing.
mean,
That's the one thing I can give Cowboy fans too is like as obnoxious as you guys are sometimes. We dem boys, da da da. Like I can't tell you how obnoxious that gets on Facebook, but like dedicated as all hell. Haven't won shit in 30 years, but you're still. This is our year.
I'm always the first one to say, if you think that's bad, imagine being a Jets fan. You ain't won since Namath. Since Joe Willie Namath was a quarterback of that team in the '60s, you ain't won since. You had your opportunity this past year that lasted all but 3 plays,
Oof.
and then Aaron Rodgers went down, and then boom goes the
That was
dynamite. The
like the
entire
biggest letdown in all of history, going down like
oh,
2 minutes into the game. They spent all that money for him to sit at his couch.
right. I mean, the guy got more airtime on Pat McAfee show than he did in the actual NFL this year, which I was fine with. But but hey,
Yeah, I'm
look,
gonna give you that login so that you can watch that because you're gonna be there's a lot of
oh,
information on that, and I was
uh,
really upset.
yeah, go and send it to me. I'll be looking at it during my break time today. But yeah, I'm definitely plus it'll help me keep up with when you start bringing up news and stuff on here. I kind of get an idea what you're going to get into.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess the only piece of news because we talked about it yesterday was the Iowa caucuses, and as I predicted, Trump led the field extremely. He had 51%. DeSantis came in at second with 22. Haley 19, and Ramaswamy. Like I said, I don't even know why he's in there because he's just kissing Trump's ass the entire time. He was at 7%.
He wants a job.
So yeah, he's
Yeah.
trying to get on the cabinet or something. So he's just pursing his lips to kiss Trump's butt cheeks, trying to get a good position.
I have the shiniest ass. Go ahead and enjoy.
I swear. Trump is the best president ever. Then why are you running against him? Look, that's not the question we need to be asking. Yes, that is the question we need to be asking, but he never answers.
Look, it's I'm I'm so different about this because I want a president. I want a president that the guys on Saturday Night Live can have a lot of fun with, because that's entertaining for me. And I'm not entertained by who they got as their Biden because he's boring as hell. I know it
Well,
has nothing to do with the country. I know it has nothing to do with running the country, and I get all that. But I
there's
want to
some
be
good jokes
entertained
about
somehow.
him. Did you see
Yeah,
the stand-up comedian that compared him to a Roomba? That was hilarious.
yeah, okay. I think I heard that one. That was funny. I mean,
Doesn't
there's
know
a
where
lot
to
of things
go
that
when he's walking off stage.
right. But like when SNL was really at its peak for me was when they looked at Bush Senior with Dana Carvey, and he had a lot of fun with that. And then even when he brought in the Ross Perot situation when he was running against Bush, and how he did both characters at the same time, and have Phil Hartman be Bill Clinton, I thought that was great. And then just as the years have gone on, they've always had the right person in place to play that person. Although they made George W. Bush way too tall, having him being played by Will Ferrell, but it didn't matter because it still worked for the cause they were going for. But again, I'm more of the idea of just entertain me. I want to be the right person to be elected president, but at the same time, entertain me a little bit and have some fun with it, because I have no dog in the fight. So I want to sit here and just armchair quarterback this and be that guy who doesn't go, "Oh, didn't vote for you, so good luck with all that." No, but I get it though. The idea of voting for your president is important. I just think I don't believe in voting for the lesser of two evils, because you're still rooting for evil.
Hmm.
So that's where I always tell people, hey, if you want to go vote, go vote. Go vote your heart. Go do what you got to do. If you want to vote left, vote left. If you want to vote right, vote right. You want to vote down the middle, good luck finding that. Because it's whatever's going to make you happy at the end. And I haven't voted for a president since George W. Bush. I'm sorry, since George Bush Senior. So that was how long ago since I've actually voted. So, um, you know, if Trump's the guy, Trump's the guy. I
It's
know I don't think Biden's going to win no matter what, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm hoping not. And it's
So,
not because I'm obviously we've talked about I'm not super pro Trump. I think it's more or less just like there's so much instability. Like if I'm looking when it comes like to law and my career, my position, it's when I look at the instability of the country and the instability of the just the instability of the world, the different stuff that's going on, a lot of it is being bred by the fact that they see this administration as being extremely weak and they don't think that they're actually going to do anything. They think they're all talk. So that was the only like upside to Trump being kind of a lunatic sometimes was like people weren't sure. So they didn't mess with him. Like, you can use that to your
it was
advantage
literally
sometimes.
it was literally grab your popcorn and let's see what's going to happen. It was
Yeah.
kind of one of those things, which
Like it can be obviously
if,
it can be a good and a bad thing, but as far as like foreign relations, like these other leaders didn't really mess with them because they weren't sure. Is this is actually going to
no,
be the guy that's going to press the big red button? Like, so,
right?
um, and I know that's not, some people are like, well, we want peace, but sometimes peace requires you to kind of put your foot down, and it requires somebody to step up as the superpower sometimes. I don't like, there's a younger generation that likes to not think that America's great, but America is still the best country in the world as far as freedom, as far as having the right to complain, the right to bitch and moan about what the
Oh,
country's doing.
trust me. Is there
It's
any other country where we can come out here and do what we're doing? No.
No, you can't even, and even in other Western countries, you can't do it in Canada, you can't do it in London, you can't do it like you can't do it in these other areas. Um, and I don't think people realize that until people started to realize it, I think, a little bit in COVID, because you started to see these protesters being arrested. Like people were going to the beach in Australia and getting arrested for going to the beach. Like because they were like locked down, like you weren't allowed to leave your house. Um, and like Jordan Peterson, the psychologist or psychiatrist, I think he's a psychologist. I always mix the two up. One can give drugs, one can't. But so he's actually like facing the Canada Board of like psychiatrics or whatever is threatening to take away his license because he won't use people's preferred pronouns. Like they're straight going to take his job away and want to fine him and jail him for not doing it.
Well, once again, the idea that not every country has freedom of speech either. I mean, there's that as well.
Yeah,
And you know,
so
like here in this country,
America
we can
has
say
its
that,
faults, but at the end of the day, you have freedoms here that you don't have anywhere else.
right?
So people have to
You
understand that
know,
to keep those freedoms and to keep what we have, sometimes it takes being a bit of a hard ass and
mhm,
keeping some of these other countries in line. It's letting China know who's boss so they don't start encroaching on Taiwan. It's, you know, helping out the Ukrainians so that Russia doesn't get their stuff. It's helping out Israel so they can keep all these um, Middle East terror groups out of the way, because a lot of these terror groups, people don't realize, a lot of these terror groups that are going after Israel right now are backed by Iran. Iran has nuclear weapons. If Iran gets in the fight and we have to fight back, then there could be nuclear stuff going on. So, like, even though
mhm,
this stuff seems like, well, it's not our fight, it's not America's fight, we shouldn't have to deal with it. Like, no, it is. It might not be our fight, but it'll become our fight if we don't help.
right.
So, and it's going to be a worse fight.
But
So,
then the problem we run into that is like we remember we had Vietnam. We got involved in the country's civil war at the
I've done a
time,
lot of
and then
research on Vietnam, and the problem with Vietnam was there was no strategy.
right,
Like when they went to Korea, there was a strategy of like get this section, then get this section, get this section, eventually move towards that parallel where you can divide the two Koreas. When they went into Vietnam, like you can talk to a lot of these vets, there was no plan. Like they would go spend 4 days taking over a hill because it was just search and destroy missions, which means you just go kill everybody and it's a win if everyone's dead. Like, and that's just how they were defining a win.
right,
There was no land to take over. There was no like actual this is where we go, and when we get here we're good and we're done and we're out. Like there was no actual battle plan for when we were going to be finished. And so they would take like 5 days, losing tons of people to take over this hill that's in a strategic area to where they can see, you know, enemy, whatever. And they take over the hill. And then a day later, the helicopter would come pick everyone up and they would leave. And the Vietnam would just take back over the hill. Like it was absolutely
right.
ridiculous. I had to do an entire one of my classes last semester was modern American military history. So we went really in depth into all the most recent wars. I actually learned a lot about Nam on that. Um, a very lack of strategy was the problem in Nam.
You know, you think about it. You're sitting at home. You've probably got enough money to live off of, and you sit there and go, "I want to become the president of the United States." What would make a person think that? What would make a person want to sit there and go, "I want to be a target for half of America, and perhaps maybe one or two real big idiots who want to sit there and take me out"? You know, I want to be that guy.
I have no.
What goes in their mindset of that? I wonder, because you think about it, you open yourself up to the entire world of all your faults, all your frailties, all things you have done that is going to piss the other side off completely and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, everybody has it. I mean, I got it, you got it, we all got it. So, you know, what makes that person want to run for that kind of office? Because I'm thinking that's probably why most of our presidential candidates are in their 60s or in their 70s. They got nothing else to go now. You know,
We
and I
got
mean,
nothing to
Trump,
lose.
we got nothing to lose now because what are you going to say about me? I haven't already heard. You know, I mean, whereas if you're a 35-year-old individual who here's the scariest part about who could possibly be the president right now. Do you realize that the person who can legally run for president probably grew up with Barney? Yeah, right. So
Well,
that
I'm a couple years away though.
that's
You have to
scary.
be 35. I'm only 31, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
gotta wait
So
a couple of years. I could run for
or
Congress though.
I mean, there's a good chance. There's a good chance that person play with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, okay, and Pokemon cards, and that kind of right. I mean, they're out there, and I mean, to
I mean,
me,
look at
it's kind of
AOC. AOC was a bartender. I mean, I've got that one on lock. I could be in Congress.
all right. There you go.
I probably know more about Congress than she does.
Right. So I mean, to me, it's just it's mind-boggling to me that we filter out everybody who wants to become president, and then all of a sudden when you get into the Iowa caucuses or the whatever else is of the world, we sit there and go, "That's it, huh?
Mm,
Wow." I mean, the choice is so filtered down to the point to where you're like, "Oh dear Lord, there's not anybody else, really?"
right.
And to me, that I mean, because once again, they can only really pick one or two sides. I mean, there's that third side you can pick, the independent side, but that just takes away votes from the other two sides, and that doesn't really help you out
Those are
in the case.
those are the RFKs.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. It's just that's scary when it comes down to just that for me because I'm like, well, like Obama. Okay, when Obama was president,
Hmm.
I only got to hear him. I never knew what he looked like until I could stop the truck and actually watch TV. You know, so I only heard what he had to say. He sounded great. Again, I didn't know anything about his political background, nothing else, because I'm only listening to it through the eyes of CNN or through Fox News on the radio. So, and I hear one side he's all this and one side he's all that, and I'm like, okay. And then when I hear him talk compared to who he ran up against, and I totally forget who he ran up against. I think it was Romney, was it?
Which time? The
The
first
first time.
time?
Yeah.
The first time I think it was Romney.
Yeah. I don't know. But anyway, like, it was like, who sounded better for me? But I still wasn't going to vote. So, because I don't care. But it was like, then he gets in office, and then all of a sudden, here comes the avalanche of shit ready to crash down on him because, you weren't prepared for all this. So imagine being that guy. Imagine you being the guy who finally won the election, right?
Hmm.
It's a good day for me. I'm the president. I can do this. What? You're going to hit me with all this crap now? You had all that time to do all that, and now you're doing it now? What good is that? And I think the media does a lot to sit there because, once again, bad news sells TV ads. Bad news sells, I mean,
Yeah,
that's where they
the
get their
news is
money.
depressing.
Yeah, and I'm not saying I want a news channel like, well, today in the world everything is just fine. Tune in tomorrow where we don't have that.
Everything's great.
You know, everything's great.
It's that meme of like the guy on fire and he's like, everything's fine.
I'm good. So yeah, uh, uh, it's a crazy world that we live in. Here we are, 2024. By the way, I'm not a big fan of years that end with number 4. I don't know why. 84, 94. I mean, I was never a big fan of that, but I mean, 4 is not a good number for me. Although that is a number of our quarterback for the Cowboys, so it tells you a lot.
Maybe that's the problem.
Well, he's good. He's a good quarterback. Problem is that he just, I don't know, he has his moments. Then again, they all do. I mean, hell, look at your quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He had his moment. But
Yeah. Well, I think he's been a lot more banged up than he wanted to let anyone know. I don't think he
oh
was
yeah,
the
most definitely.
problem this year. I think, like I said, I think that has a lot to do with the stuff in the back.
You're probably right. You're probably right about that because once again, we don't know. We just know the scores, the outcomes, right? We don't really know what's going on backstage a whole lot. unless they want to bring it to the airwaves, and they haven't done that out there. So probably because the Philadelphia media would eat them the hell up. Go, well, get over it, man. Come on, get tough, damn it. We're Philadelphia. We're Philly
Oh,
strong, baby. Come on.
the players know, like especially the fans, we will be the first to turn on them because we know they're better than that. And like so one of the players even said they were like, "How do you feel about, the game being an away game?" And he was like, "Honestly, we kind of prefer it because the fans at the link will start booing pretty quick and that booing kind of starts to get to you after a while."
I mean, out there, it's a psychological situation where you're like, damn, I can't win here, I can't win there. We're all screwed. It's kind of like watching that Cowboy game. That was the longest second half I've ever sat through and listened to on the radio because no matter even though the Cowboys were finally putting up points, the game was so out of hand by then it didn't even matter. I
Yeah.
was like, just get to the end. This is like you're prolonging the off season now with a
Just
really
just
shitty
just
30-minute
just
part of the game.
unplug. Pull the cord.
Right.
Pull the plug.
Yeah,
That's
you
kind
got
of how I
Jerry
felt
Jones.
yesterday too. Like we did that one really good throw, like 54 yards he threw. Guy caught it. We got that one touchdown. We got the 2 points. And then we forgot how to play for the rest of the time. Like I don't know. It's like you see a play like that and you're like, "See, you have it in you. It's there. You have the tools, you have the players, you have the ability." And then we forget.
It's funny
Or I don't
because
know
if you
what
watch
happened, but there's a
if you
big
watch if you
disconnect.
watch the if you watch the Cowboys game on a Sunday, Aaron Jones had 3 touchdowns for the Packers. Well, the Cowboys tied in scored 3 touchdowns. That's going to go unheard of because they lost. So but I mean that was garbage time touchdowns for him, so it didn't really matter. Still adds up as a stat for him, but then again he lost, so it don't
No.
matter. So we've been all over this place in this episode. We did a lot of football. We did some politics. We did some documentary talk.
Yeah, I can't
And
wait for you to watch it. You're gonna have to watch that, and when you're done watching it, we're gonna have to like have a whole damn episode on it because there's so
I'm down
much
for it.
stuff that they left out of that documentary. I was legitimately pissed at the end, and I was like, I feel lied
I'm
to.
I'm I'm, I'm all for it. See, I wonder if I get the Daily Wire on my Roku.
Yeah, they have an
I
app.
wonder you can do that. Okay, because I'll definitely do that then because I it's funny because TV watching for me has come down to just YouTube now because there's so many
Yeah,
apps, there's
pretty
so
much
many this,
me too.
so many that, but like I watch things in segments now apparently, and this is where like when I do Offshoots TV, I break apart the show in different segments and throw those on there, and actually those get a lot of views, so that actually works out well for the show. But as far as like my TV watching, I mean, I've become more of like I'll go back and rewatch movies through reaction videos, people who've never seen the movies, so I can
Mhm.
have fun watching them watch that movie. To me, because I've already seen Jaws 1,000 times, but to watch somebody else watch and be frightened when the head pops out of the boat or whatever else, I'm like, cool. It still makes people jump. That's awesome. I don't know how much of that's an act, but still, it's a lot of fun. So, man. But anyway,
Yeah,
I know we're
I'm a premium
sorry.
subscriber. I pay like a yearly subscription to Daily Wire because I like their content. I like what they have to say, and there's multiple people on there, like multiple hosts, and they all kind of have a little bit of a different point of view. So you have like a couple of them that are really like Trumpy, and then you have like Ben Shapiro's a little more like he's a DeSantis guy, a little more logical, ridiculously smart dude. I know
Mhm.
he gets a lot of hate from people, but from what I have heard from people that have met him, like even Joe Rogan's like he's actually a really polite, like nice guy, and he's ridiculously
Mhm.
smart. He graduated high school at like 15, graduated from UCLA at like 20, and then went to Harvard Law. So he's a smart
Well, that
dude,
guy.
really smart dude.
I bet that guy never had a date for a while, did he?
I think he married his wife's from Israel, which is why he has taken the Israel thing so hard. People are like, "Oh, he's unhinged," and I'm like, he has family there that are getting like
Mm.
bombs on top of their heads. You're telling me you wouldn't be a little more eccentric about it than the average Joe. Like if your
I
family
mean,
was there.
you probably have a little more of a dog in the fight than most people at that point. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So his wife's from Jerusalem. So they met through family friends, I think. Like it's really big in the Jewish community to like get like hook people up with each other. Like a lot of matchmaking going on with the Orthodox Jews. But it must work because they don't have a very high divorce rate in the Jewish community, so I guess it works out.
That's sure because they're all because they all know how to watch their money.
Mhm.
It's very true. It's
I
very
mean,
true.
look at what he's done with the Daily Wire in the last few years. I mean, they've gone from kind of a rumchuck like radio show to now a big huge company that's making movies and TV shows. They just launched a kids app that has kids TV shows and content because of all the stuff that's been going into kids crap in Disney lately. They started making their own stuff. They have their own they have a TV series coming out this year that's going to be a lot like Game of Thrones. It's based off the movie The
Okay.
Pendragon Cycle or whatever I think it's called.
By the way,
It,
by the way, have you seen this trailer to this new show coming on Fox Nation or whatever it is?
huh.
It's got Dan Aykroyd, Jim Belushi, Norm from Cheers, and Kevin Nealon, I think's in it. I mean, it's got like six well known comedians that we all know of, or actors, comedians, whatever, and they're all sitting at a bar and they're all trying these different drinks or whatever. I'm like, what the hell is this? I mean, this is it's Fox Nation. They're doing a TV show on alcohol.
I know I haven't seen it. I don't really watch
Yeah,
Fox.
yeah. So
Um, the only time I watch Fox Nation for because they picked back up Cops when
right,
the Cop show got canceled after the George Floyd crap. Um,
right.
Fox picked it up, so I watch for that reason. But that's it because I love those shows. I love Cops.
That's cool. Well, let's go on ahead, and I know we're a little bit early here, but today has been a nothing news day for most of us.
Yo, and I
Real
slept
quickly
like I
here.
slept like ass last night. So this is I
Yeah,
didn't do
it
any
happens.
prep before the show at all today. I was just like I'm just gonna wing it.
Hey, you know what? You know it's a daily grind. You get us on a daily basis, one way or the other. So, I
Prepped or
mean,
not prepped.
prep or not prep, we're gonna have conversation. We're gonna have a lot of fun doing it, and hopefully you're all watching this. Just so you know, you can catch more Presley here on the Middle Ground with Presley Christine.
New episode
Show
dropped
drops.
today.
No, yeah, dropped today, and of course it's on Spotify as well. Check out YouTube and Spotify. Also, when they get up and going again, Fit Trends.
I'm
Your
supposed to
friend
be
Karen
recording a
Ashley's
new
got.
episode tomorrow, so fingers crossed.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
me and Karen,
Your
that's a
friend Karen
mental.
Ashley, she's got like 1,000 kids. So it's,
Yeah,
go
she's
ahead.
6 kids and she's a registered nurse. So,
Okay, come
her
on.
she's got a full
Okay,
plate.
I'm a little off.
6 kids and a
A little
registered
bit.
nurse. She's got a full plate.
It's,
So scheduling's a little
what,
more difficult with that. But
what, what y'all's topic for tomorrow?
if we end up being able to record, we were gonna do just a have you heard the trend of the icks? Like these young girls on TikTok will make videos about their icks, and it's like little petty
Mm,
crap that like will turn you off about a guy. So we were just going to do kind of a fun episode about stuff like that, like discussing our icks and then discussing how kind of silly the whole ick thing is because you're just pointing out the littlest stuff. That'll probably just be a
gotcha.
fun episode. But
Okay.
then we'll do serious ones about like mental health, dating with kids, and um,
Mm-hmm.
toxic. Our last one was toxic parents. So we discussed like whether a two-parent household or a one-parent household is better if there's a toxic parent involved. Like if there's a parent that has anger issues or is going to kind of pass on those generational traumas and curses to the child, like Is it just healthier to cut that off? Even though statistically, yeah, like kids are better off with both parents. But if one of those parents isn't a healthy person, like they've got issues, is the kid better off just not having that parent, even if their road might be a little more difficult? So we discuss stuff like that. And
Well,
obviously Karen's a single mom, so she has a lot
right,
more of a dog in that fight than I do.
right. Well, if I had my two cents in that, when my wife and I, when we separated over 2.5 years ago, and I moved up here to Oklahoma, I mean, I was very toxic. I was very angry. I was having, like, nothing was going right in the house, and I just took it out on everybody. And I went and got help. Through my job, I went and got help, and I don't have those issues anymore that I would have now. Do I pay for it daily? Yeah, I do. Man, my girls don't talk to me. I mean, I try to contact them, and they don't call me back. I'm only there if they need something, which is life right now. But I mean, but my son, who has seen a lot of it, he knows who I am, and he actually knows that I've changed, and even my wife knows I have changed. Now it takes two to tango for that, and obviously, she needs to do a part on her end to make that work. But you know, again, getting help is the hardest thing to do, and once you get the help, and once you start to realize what I thought worked for me wasn't really working, and
Mhm.
now what I'm doing now is working. Why do I want to go back to that? And
Yeah.
that's what it took for me to actually see that change. So, again, look, none of us are perfect. We're all gonna have our own little fall downs in life, and that was my situation with my family life. So, I'm glad that at least I'm in a better situation. I hope everybody else can figure out their course of action too. But we'll see what happens when we get there.
Yeah, that's
But
kind of what, kind of what we talk about. And we just discuss kind of stuff like that, like nitty-gritty relationship stuff and family life stuff and life stuff. So that's more of the life podcast. And there's serious episodes like that, and then there's like funny episodes where we're talking about like intimate time after you have kids and all the
I
journey and
know.
stuff that is. So
All right.
trying to
Very cool.
sneak while the kids are taking a nap and stuff, like silly stuff like that. So we jump
Right.
we jump around.
Fair enough. Well, also check out on Thursday night Austin's TV as we get into the World Professional Wrestling. Me and my boys, and we have a lot of fun with that as well. Also on Thursday, probably our last episode of Tailgate Talk. Myself and Jason Collins, we talk about the final game of the Dallas Cowboy season this past week. So that'll be a lot of fun on our end, and then we can definitely retool that show for next year.
For
So,
sure. I should be on an
anywho,
episode of Offshoots one day just to talk about my.
you are more than welcome, because I know the boys have. Well, I know Michael McCurdy has watched you on here, and he likes you. Although it's funny because he's very left leaning, and he knows you're kind of right leaning a little bit. So he's like, "Oh, we gonna fight." I'm like, "Okay, whatever. You're gonna fight nothing."
Remember, I'm a lawyer. I can destroy people with my words.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
my career. Um, no, like just I can talk the wrestling stuff. I don't know much about like the DFW scene, but like if we just talk like when it comes to
But
WWE stuff, like I can bring up my,
right,
I
which
showed
is
you my pictures. I got my past.
which is all we talk about on Oscars TV nowadays, because I got a guy who lives in Fort Worth who can't drive. I got a guy in Missouri who doesn't know about the DFW. I got a guy in San Antonio who he comes up here every once in a while, and a guy who when he does show up on the show, he only goes to shows that I'm at when he wants me to give him a ride. So that's kind of the length of how much I do wrestling locally. So we talk WWE, AEW, that kind of stuff. So
I know a little
that's
bit.
gonna do it for this edition of the Daily Grind. Thank y'all for joining us here, and of course we'll catch you on the backside, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.